So, you first for a change.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming back to another live. This is our second one since having our little break, and as you can see, we're not shying away from the hard topics again. Whereas this week we're going to be speaking about paedophiles and just all aspects of paedophiles. Um, the political side and etc.
Yeah, what the government has to say, and then blah blah blah,
and all of that, and the psychological aspect as well. We'll be speaking about that. Well, I've got some information on that. So yeah, it might not be too long this week because
yeah, it's going to depend on our interaction.
Yeah, it just depends on the interaction. So if you guys are putting lots of comments and saying a lot of stuff, then of course it will go on for longer. But if you're not, then of course we'll be chopping it off because we ain't here to be chatting all day with no interaction.
And not just because of that. We don't want to give people too much of our information.
Yeah, in it. Yeah.
To be fair,
you have to do some work for yourself as well.
And if we talk too much, we give too many things away for free.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because that people can't.
Soon,
we know that we retain a lot of information.
That's right. Not everybody does it that way, so soon we have to start charging you for our information.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? So
shall I start off with some?
Let's just hang on a minute
for people to come
see
in.
if we get a few more people on. Well, we've got Israel and Alison.
Yes, of course. Our two biggest supporters.
Yes, they're always there. And do chip in if you want to once we get moving.
Yeah. I know Israel knows about this topic well as.
Oh yeah, even Alison. Well. But we'll just see if a couple more people come on. If not, we'll just say what we're saying. I know people watch it later on anyway.
Yeah, they do sometimes watch it later on.
We've got a couple of people on who are not named. So is it showing 5 on there?
Yeah, 5. Good evening, Uncle Johnny. Good evening, Teva. Hi, Israel.
Yeah, 6 people now.
Log on. It always puts up the volume even when you don't want it.
All right, go on then. Let's get moving.
So, just get my notes. Sorry. So we'll start off with a definition of the term and and what, as they call it, Wikipedia, they class that as the official, don't they? So what Wikipedia says, basically.
Yeah.
Because you type in the word.
Because you see, last week we did LGBTQA. QIA, yeah. LGBTQIA, and we didn't add the P.
Yes, we didn't, no.
Because I will never add it.
I will never add the P. I don't care.
But they are trying
to
add the P there.
Yeah, they actually are.
They're actually trying to add the P within that community.
Yeah.
And within that distinction.
Yep.
So, very, very worrying.
Yeah, it is. It's actually scary, but So it says, paedophilia is a psychiatric disorder in which an adult or older adolescent experiences a primary or exclusive sexual attraction to prepubescent children. Now, it states that although girls typically can begin the process of puberty at age 10 or 11 and boys at age 11 or 12, the criteria for paedophilia extends to the cutoff point for prepubescence to age 13. And it states that a person must be at least 16 years of age and at least 5 years older than the prepubescent child, which I think is foolishness anyway, because what rubbish are you chatting? So if they were 16 and the person was 13, then it's all right.
Generally, what happens with that age group, and anybody who's a social worker can come on and say what they want to say, but I do know, generally at that age group they don't prosecute. I can give a personal example. I can remember working in a children's home as a residential social worker. There was a 14-year-old boy, 15-year-old girl, and they were having sex. We reported it, and basically they didn't care. It's as sad as that. They didn't care. Now, the question, which anybody who's scanning on and off may answer, or maybe people may comment later or whatever, and we'll give our own answer. Technically, would you say that the 15 or 16-year-old boy is a paedophile when also the girl is within his teenage age group? This is the question. And I know I've jumped into Tamar's thing, but it's because there's another point on that as well, that, you know, there is now a law that if you decide as a girl or a boy to go and take pictures of your parts and send it to whoever you feel like sending it to, it can now be classified as a criminal offence.
Yeah.
It can be classified as a criminal offence in two ways. One, because you sent it, and two, because the person keeps it on their phone or wherever they keep them. You know, and that never used to be the case. Of course, in the days before phones, kids used to do whatever they were doing. You show me yours, I'll show you mine. All them kind of things. What you got in your pants and all of this. And now, and I'm neither saying it's good or bad, but we know that it happened and has happened. And of course, that's another issue in itself, because then all those children have been sexualized. And in some cases, you know, it's the stupid discovery games that children play. But now those games are no more games. They can now be prosecuted.
Yeah.
So if some boyfriend says to his girlfriend, send me your boobs, and she does, it can be a problem. Never used to be. And like I say, depending on his age, we get into this paedophilia business.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, possibly, but this is why now people need a little bit more education on it.
Yeah.
You know,
there's a very thin line between not paedophile and paedophile in terms of what they class.
Even for age group. But of course, when it comes to older people, well, there's no discussion. There's no discussion. They're just, you know, not supposed to be up. Now, you know, we're going to talk as well, hopefully, about what we actually think about such type of people. Because, you know, they do say, well, there is self-help and there are help organizations and such people should ask for help and seek help and so on and so forth. And of course they should. You know,
100%.
but what should be our response to those people? So that's one of the things we want to look at. How should we deal with them? And we're speaking, as always, as Christians. Speak how you want, because you may not be a Christian, but I am. So I can't chop that head off. That's who I am.
Always.
That's right. So I speak from, you know, that perspective of how I believe I should or shouldn't respond. But let's get into that, because it's a hard one. And people have very, very strong views about paedophiles, as we know.
Yes, which is also some of the stuff that I've got on here as well.
Go on.
So now when we get into the psychological side of what they actually call paedophilic disorder, which is when you act upon the urges and thoughts, as they call it. So studies found that associations between paedophilia and lower IQ scores, poorer scores on memory tests, greater rates of non-right-handedness, greater rates of school grade failure.
That's weird.
Yeah, strange, isn't it? And lesser physical height, greater probability of having suffered childhood head injuries, resulting in unconsciousness, and several differences in the MRI detected brain structures. Now, if you have studied psychology at all, even just a small piece of psychology, then you know that the prefrontal cortex, if that is damaged when it's developing, can cause some strange things to happen in the brain, even in terms of cannibalism. Yeah,
because that's cannibalism. Yes,
because when I studied psychology, that was one of the things that we learned, that every single person that was a convicted cannibal had prefrontal cortex damage and neglect from the mother, always in the two together. And it seems that with this pedophilia thing, there's like physiological and environmental causes that come together and then create this disorder, as they call it. So it also says there's evidence of familial transmittability, which suggests but does not prove, but I still think that's foolishness. We know if it suggests, then it proves. Yeah, it proves that genetic factors are responsible.
Yes.
Yep. And it can be caused by child abuse, comorbid psychiatric illness. Those are like I said, the factors. And there's 3 psychologists called Blanchard, Cantor, and Robichaud. I don't really know how to say his name properly. Robichaud, whatever. They found that the mothers of paedophiles were more likely to undergo psychiatric treatment, which clearly shows that there's a genetic predisposition when it comes to the brain and the chemistry of what's going on in there. That's why their mothers are also having issues with the chemistry in their brain. So they are what they're now trying to do. Actually, I'll yes. So because now obviously it's been what's the word? Because now it's being recognized more as an illness and not just as like a perversion. They're trying to now deter people from judging pedophiles who have not yet committed any crime, and they want to be renamed. And this is what we were speaking about before, when we were saying they want to join in on the LGBTQIA community.
Yeah, and add the P on the end. P,
yeah,
because they don't see it. They want to get away from the word deviancy.
Yes.
So, yes, Tim, greetings.
Hello. Yes.
They want to get away from the word deviancy. So they don't want to say that paedophilia is a deviancy.
Yeah.
A sexual deviancy.
Yeah. They want it as an orientation.
Yeah, it's a deviancy.
Of course it's a deviancy.
It is a deviancy.
A child is not a sexual person, so therefore there can be no sexual situations.
It's not supposed to happen. And I believe that the reason why they've stretched the law and are now kind of like putting children together and talking about paedophilia, between children as in mid-teens, basically.
Yeah.
Is because, well, for a start, if we talk about the hormonal situation, mid-teens are full of hormones, full of sexual hormones, obviously, because they're now right in the middle of puberty.
Yeah.
Everything is developing, boobs are developing, voices are developing,
even their brains.
Bums are developing, brains are developing, relationships are developing, and so on. So everything is all going on. But now they want to make some of that an issue because they want to cover up where it's really at.
Yeah.
And obviously Tamar's going to give us a bit more statistically, but this is the thing that we want to highlight is about what's not being said.
Yeah.
Not what is being said.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's about what's not being said.
So yeah, they want to be renamed. They don't want to be called paedophiles anymore. They want to be called minor attracted persons. Yeah, that's the actual term. And I even, because of course you have to be careful what you're looking at when you research this type of thing, because of course you don't want the police coming thinking that you're a paedophile or something. So I'm looking at certain things online, and I was on Instagram, and of course Instagram anyway, the owners of Instagram, aka
Facebook,
metaverse, whatever you want to call yourselves, you lot are pedophiles, because the amount of nastiness and pedophilia things that go on Instagram, and I report, nothing is removed, or they tell me it's not going against community guidelines, and standards. And the people on there was a whole account dedicated to the politicalization and acceptance of minor attracted persons, as they call themselves. Yeah, saying that, and people in the comments are saying, yes, I hate when people call me a paedophile because I haven't done anything wrong and I can't help that I'm this way, and
but then
blah blah blah.
But then what you have to look at then is what's the definition of having done anything wrong? Because those same people may, in their opinion, have not had the opportunity. And let me say that because that's what I think in some cases, opportunity. They've not had the opportunity to have sex with a child, but they have had the thoughts, they've had the ideology, they've probably spent time discussing it with other like-minded people, which is also a criminal offence. They've probably spent time looking at videos and pictures, which is also a criminal offence. So though they say they haven't done anything, they've done plenty. Because no such thing can come on my laptop, computer, telephone, or anywhere else.
Never.
It must be deleted immediately.
You already know.
We also know the story of the woman of colour, policewoman, high-ranking police officer in London, who they wanted to dismiss because somebody sent her a child pornography picture, and she didn't know what it was, and she opened it, and then her people used that as an excuse to try to get rid of her.
Of course.
And there's the point that they were using basically, what the law is by way of constructive dismissal. Well, thankfully it didn't work out for them. But the point is made that, those images mean something. And that's also where it's at, because some of them were like, oh, I've seen it. The most I've done is seen an image. Well, why would you want to see that image
in the first place?
What are you trying to do? By viewing such type of images.
But yet you're not doing anything wrong.
And like I say, so far we're still in the realms of what is talked about. When we get to the point, which we will soon, particularly and especially if we don't get too much interaction on this, and I didn't think we would, because people tend to shy away from heavy topics. They may listen, but they don't really comment. And that's kind of fine. But yeah, there are some things that are not talked about, but they're actually happening. And maybe people do know, but we'll highlight some of that before we finish. So yes, go on.
So as I was saying about the politicalization, this is like what's the word? This is like a reforming of paedophile membership organizations, which already were trying to bring themselves up back in the day. So from the late 1950s to the early 1990s, several groups advocated for age of consent reform. Can you imagine? To lower or abolish completely the age of consent laws. As well as for the acceptance of paedophilia as a sexual orientation. Rather than a physiological disorder. And for the legalization of child pornography. Can you imagine? So of course these organizations were abolished and didn't have much following, etc. But
which meant they went underground.
Exactly. And now what's happening? They're rising again. Because you got to think, if there's people Yeah, like Jeffrey Epstein, Prince Andrew. Yeah. What's that man with the scary eyes?
Rolf Harris. And them
all them people there.
Gary Glitter.
Yeah. If they are pedophiles.
And plenty more.
Yeah, too many, in fact. If
those
they
are just small
openly,
examples.
Not even openly, but yes, they are basically openly pedophiles. Then what do you think that these pedophiles who are underground are thinking? They're thinking, well, if nobody's saying anything to them, then what's wrong with me? You know what I mean? What's wrong with what I do? I'm not abusing anybody. I'm not doing anything, and all that sort of behavior. And that's what these organizations are focusing on.
Yeah. And also, why are those people your friends and company?
Yeah, why?
Because let's take the issue with Prince Andrew, for instance.
Yeah.
Oh, he hasn't done anything, and the girl anyway, she was she 16, 17? 17.
Yeah, 17 in it, just turned 17.
So anyway, yeah, in the UK, so he would have been okay. And that's kind of fine, but it isn't, because big massive age gap.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. The issue is the cover up. And the fact that if he's messed around with that one at 17, he's messed around with others who will have been probably younger by far. Because those were the type of females that they brought to those events, and he was a regular at those type of events.
Yep.
It's just that particular person decided to open her mouth.
Yeah.
And speak out.
Yeah.
And this is really where we want to get with all of this. We've just said let's talk about paedophiles, but what we're really saying is what we're really saying anyway is exactly that. Let's talk, because that's exactly what people haven't done. That there's stuff that's happened in families and communities, and they've kept quiet about it, and we're going to come to that as well. And that needs to stop. Go on, Tamer.
So it says that Britain's prisons. This is an article. It is kind of old, it's dated 2019, but still quite up to date. And it says Britain's prisons have hit record numbers for the amount of paedophiles and sex offenders behind bars. And it says a total of 13,359 people are serving sentences for rape and sexual assault, as well as attacks on children. And it says in a decade, it's risen from 10% to 18%. Yeah. And it says officials say that the surge is down to a tougher stance by the courts, which are now jailing more offenders rather than handing out softer community sentences. Right? And we all know for a fact that even though, yes, they're being incarcerated, what's actually going on in there? Is every single paedophile or sexual assaulter getting treatment?
Definitely not.
Exactly, definitely not.
And I think one of the reasons for the definitely not is that there's just not enough provision for it.
There's not enough.
I'm not within the prison estate anymore, so I can't say exactly who's doing what. But I know back in the day when I worked as a prison officer, there were specific sex offender training programs available, but they were always oversubscribed, believe it or not. So not that many people, as we may have thought, could get onto those things. There was one prison I knew of. There were more, obviously, but HMP Grendon was fully dedicated to sex offenders. And when it's sex offenders, we're not just talking about paedophiles, we're talking rapists and many other things in between, sexual assaults and so forth. And I'm not sure if there's any prisons now. I'll have a quick look while we're talking, but that's part of the issue is the actual provision.
And I just, it's just sickening the way that they behave towards the paedophiles and stuff. Because I actually read something that said child molesters are not automatically classed as paedophiles, and I can't understand what exactly they're talking about there. Because how can they not be automatically classed as a paedophile when they have molested a child? So what are they then? They're just a sexual offender according to them, because maybe they've even raped, people of age or whatever. And so they don't class them as a paedophile. They just class them as whatever. They're a sexually deviant person or whatever. But there is a place that has been nicknamed the Pedo Palace. Imagine, just disgusting. At Wotton Jail in Nottinghamshire, as 70% of the offenders in there have committed offences against children.
Yeah, it's the first one. It's the first one that comes up in the estates.
You see. And it says on here that police have also been told by the government, of course they have, listen to this, that low-level sex offenders should be handed out conditional cautions instead of jail. So what exactly is low level? I'm very confused, and this is what the government are telling the police. But I also wonder, why are the government telling the police that? Because many of the government, more than likely, and I'm sure we all know, those of us that know our information anyway, there are members of the government that are involved in certain things and are paedophiles and are involved in paedophile rings all across the country and all this stuff.
That's right.
Yeah, and it was even exposed. I think we spoke about that on a different live, an old one. It was exposed about this massive satanic paedophile ring that was going on in the UK, in London, down south. And these poor children were being subjected to all this abuse and all this disgusting stuff. And what's it called? They told the father, and the mother came and she said what they had told her, etc., etc. And the police brought them in for interviews and everything. And then they went away for a few days, and then they came back and did another interview, and suddenly what they were saying was different. They weren't saying the same things anymore, and the police decided to take the second interviews as the correct interviews and not the first ones, even though the first interviews had an unbelievable amount of accurate recalling of information that no child that young can make up on the spot. These are things that were happening to them. There's no chance that they could even know these things without having been exposed to it. And their father was because BBC anyway, same thing. BBC, you're done out here because you're another one that's on the nastiness. They asked the father to do a interview. That was it, and it's actually on YouTube. I'm gonna find it to tag it in the comments, right? And if you ever see, even if you look at that man's face, you can see the evilness seeping out of his eyes. No exaggeration. And he even pretends to cry on the video, saying, "Oh, it's awful what I'm being accused of, and it's not right, and I would never do that." And they've turned off the comments as well on the video.
Yeah, I've seen. I've just been looking. I've seen that they've stopped them.
Yeah, they won't let the comments come on the video because they know what people are gonna say. What's that comment there?
No surprise, this is the crime the government makes an effort to defend. That's Israel.
Yes, exactly. Of course. Israel. You already know.
And even Facebook are trying their own thing because they're trying to block us off.
Yeah, as they always do.
Because they don't want you to discuss these type of things properly.
No.
Or to tell the truth about it.
They want you to tell their lies that are out there. What does it say? See? FB is interfering on this one hard though. You see, of course.
Yeah,
you see,
it even paused it.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because they're not liking.
Because I went out and came back in and saw it had paused it.
Because they're not liking the level of information that's coming out. Yeah, and just to show you how the law and the media are trying to slowly make you sympathize and accept the pedophilic disorder, whatever you want to refer to it as. Let's go by somebody who's from the UK herself, Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, she is supposed to be going on trial. They're actually choosing the jurors now. The jury selection has begun yesterday. Yeah, and she has come out and said, what has she come out and said? Oh, she's under a lot of pressure. She's not being treated right. This is what she has come out and said about, because she's been in federal custody for like a year now, isn't it? It's about a year.
Mm-hmm.
And just in case anybody doesn't know who Ghislaine Maxwell is, she was the girlfriend / partner of Jeffrey Epstein, and I'm sure you know who that is.
Mm-hmm. And Mrs. Pimp.
Mm-hmm. And she was, Mrs. Pimp. She would be going out into the city, wherever, recruiting young girls, bringing them back to the yard, and forcing them to do things with Jeffrey. And of course, other men as well,
mm-hmm.
that were brought to the island and all those things. And of course, she was getting paid for that and all the rest. Yeah. And there's actually a documentary on Netflix, if you want to check it out, where it actually discusses in detail about different things and her involvement, etc. If you have a look, you'll find it. Just type in Jeffrey Epstein. But yeah, so she's in obviously solitary confinement right now. She's claiming that her eyesight is failing and her hair is falling out and the guards are repeatedly waking her up and all this sort of stuff. But the prison officials are saying the reason that she's under such scrutiny is because of the so-called Epstein suicide. Yeah, and I'm doing that on purpose.
Yeah, because
is it really a suicide, or did he just get
did they rescued? Done him?
Yeah, or did they kill him off? Yeah. Which one is it? Did somebody come in there and just done him off? Because remember, he was going to be revealing some serious things, and he even said that to the FBI, I will reveal. Yeah, and they had everything set up, and then boom, oh, he's dead. So that's why now they're serious, and they're not letting her get kill off or any of those things. She's even claimed that she hasn't had a nutritious meal in a whole year, which I find highly unlikely. And I think she's just trying to gain some public sympathy there.
Mm.
Good evening. I think I see Daniel. And
okay.
4 applications for bail have been turned down. Yeah, and the highest offer from her lawyers was, listen to this, £21 million. Yeah, and Judge Alison Nathan, which was a former associate of the White House counsel, has ruled that the accused woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, remains a flight risk and has not been honest about her financial means. So that means that she has enough money and they don't know where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where it came from.
Mm-hmm, they don't know where it came from. And we know it came from the paedophilia, sex rings and whatever else.
Yeah, she was paid like a madam.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly that. Paid like a madam, yeah? Let's see what Israel's...
Well, I'll read them.
Okay. Yeah, she was paid like a madam, basically. You know what I mean?
I have to delete and come back again.
Oh, yeah.
It's not letting me see my things properly. Okay.
So there'll be...
The government don't want people to start talking about them. Look at how they let the Prince Andrew scandal just slide after acting like retribution was going to be made.
Yeah.
Well, of course, how in the world
the Queen's favourite
can the Queen's favourite, and why is he the Queen's favourite? Because he's got the same behaviour as his mother. The you know, let's not pretend.
Yeah.
There's plenty of documented stories and evidence of how many children went missing. You know, the biggest one that they've talked about is the Queen's so-called tea party.
Yeah.
You know, where all those Canadian children went missing.
Yes, we have covered MAPs, minor attracted person.
Is that Daniel?
Yeah.
Yeah, you see? And the thing is that the Queen, that was quickly hush covered up.
Yeah, for real.
Swept under the carpet, etc., etc.
No one even thinks about it.
And of course, Andrew, as far as they're concerned, is untouchable. I think that he's done a lot more than that. You know what they've flagged
Found
up,
out, yeah.
And that's the real issue. And of course, they could say, "Oh well, you people, this is what you live for, to just be controversial and talk about these things." Well, no, we're talking about this part of it to lay a foundation.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because we want to talk about, especially, and not only, but especially people of our colour who do not disclose.
Yes.
And there's a lot of paedophilia in our communities.
Yeah.
You know, but it's I mean,
yeah, once again brushed.
You know, paedophilia to the point where the children of those men, and it is mostly men, unfortunately. And I'm not saying that the women are not involved, because there are some women as far involved as well. But in some cases within our communities, where the daughters have had children for their fathers.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just been looked at as just, oh, she's had a child and we don't know who the father is. And you know. There are people who know exactly what happened to that child, and they've said nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. and you know, they often talk about the grooming situation with the Muslims. And I'm not saying that you know, that they shouldn't talk about it. But that's it. They talk about it when they want to, or when it becomes, you know, exacerbated.
Yeah.
So otherwise, the whole issue of grooming in general, they don't have anything to say. So all these families, like I say, within communities of color, especially our communities, Pakistani, Indian, and so forth, where the girls are being, let's say, raped.
Yeah.
Raped, groped, and all the rest by uncles, cousins, and so forth. Yeah. It's as if that doesn't happen.
Yep.
What's that? What they said there?
There's 2 comments actually. I have to come back off and go back on again.
I think someone just putting names up.
Oh, and Alison's put something. There is only hope in Christ Jesus, the Lamb of God, and his deliverance power made possible through Jesus' works on the cross. This is the only hope to set paedophiles free from the devils and inner deep spiritual wounds of sexual attraction to children, aka Jezebel, witchcraft, and the network of unclean spirits that drive predators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah.
So here's the thing. Have you got more statistics?
That's about it.
That's about okay, cool.
On the statistics side, then it's just chatting.
Okay, well then we'll push it a bit deeper. What I want to ask or say, let me say, and whoever chooses to comment back, whether they jump on or off, that's up to them, whether it's now or later. Let me give an example. The girl Begum, who is now a woman.
Yes, she's a woman now.
Who went and married a man from ISIS.
Yeah.
When she married that man from ISIS, she was a child.
Yeah, she was a child.
Right? Irrespective, because let's not even talk about emotions. Let's just go by the law.
Yeah.
By the law, she was a child because she was 15 years old.
Yeah.
And the law says a 15-year-old cannot choose who they live with without parental consent. A 15-year-old cannot have sex with anybody.
No.
A 15-year-old cannot get married.
Yep.
That's the law. She was 15 years old. So, and the law usually would say that if a 15-year-old was influenced to have sex, to
run away,
no, I'm not. Well, the runaway part, yes. So go and live with a stranger. But to conduct a deep relationship with a stranger who's older than her, who's an adult, then they would say that she had been groomed.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden, because this girl is a girl of color, and she's a Muslim, so to speak, she cannot have been groomed. When the white blonde girls, who some of them are very nasty girls with very bad behavior. So unless I'm going to put this in there on purpose, because people have to understand that this is also down to parenting to an extent, that parents need to take more responsibility for the behavior and actions of their children. Don't just leave them, oh, they're on the internet, they're on their phone. Do you know what they're doing on their phone? Do you know who their friends are? Do you know what they're chatting about? Do you know what they do? You know, we saw something online a while ago. Some people saw it anyway. The girl was about 14, I think. And this was not in the UK, by the way. So, and the girl was skinning out. I'm putting it, for those who understand, you understand. I don't want to explain if I don't need to. But basically to say she put herself there to be showing up herself to big man, look at me and look at my body. And she was doing it in her room, and her mum just came in and caught her and went straight for the belt and gave her some proper licks. There was a very mixed conversation about that. First of all, I'm going to repeat, it wasn't the UK, it was Caribbean.
Yeah.
But the mum said, you want to skin out yourself on the internet, then take the licks on the internet. So, anyway, take that how you want. But that's what mum said. So my point now, she's a child.
Yeah.
Don't matter how big whatever is on her body is, she's a child.
She's still a child, yeah.
Right? So now how come then all of a sudden the 15-year-old child who took herself off under influence has gone to now marry this ISIS man? She wasn't groomed. She was groomed.
Of course she was.
She was groomed. There's no two ways about it. She is an idiot. We don't have to dispute that or wonder. She is an idiot. She still, even until today or until recently, said some very idiotic, childish things. But that's not even unusual because she's an idiot.
Yeah.
It's as plain and simple as that. But she was groomed. So that man picking her up and having her as his wife at that 15-year-old age, that is paedophilia.
Of course.
But nobody has looked at that angle. Everything is just, she's bad, she's wicked, she's ISIS. She's not ISIS. She went and married somebody who was part of ISIS, and she was groomed into that. And very stupid. But that also has to do with the parental control and responsibility within that family.
Yeah.
So that's her. That's one. But you could talk about so many in communities where they can tell you stories of uncle this who has done that, cousin this who has done what, and nobody has said anything.
Yeah. Because what I think as well, sometimes you don't even have to know directly that you don't have to know by them telling you. Sometimes just by reading the situation of what's going on at home and within the family, the immediate family, etc., you can see what's been happening or what has happened. Because some people may, like, say there's somebody, for example, let's say there's somebody who's maybe my age or something, and you find that maybe they'll be saying, no, I can't speak to that person. a member of their family, a male, maybe. No, I can't speak to that uncle under any circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Then you say, why? I just can't speak to them, and I won't.
And that's it. And they're not telling you.
And they're not telling you why. And or they say, oh, you know, they blame their mum, maybe. Oh, my mum should have done something, or, you know, etc. You can tell when something has happened like that, because like I just said, that's how they'll behave. And even the relationship between the mum or the parents and the child or the young person is strained, because of course they feel as though, well, you've allowed me to be abused or groomed or whatever has gone on, and you've just pretended that you haven't seen anything, because, you know, it's too much of trying to save face, trying to pretend to look good to other people and like your family is perfect and nothing is going on within your family, etc., etc. And that's really where the problem lies, because too many people are scared to admit what's going on in the family, because they don't want the judgment or the ridicule of others, which we all know people do judge and they do like ridicule. But what would you prefer, to have, you know, trauma within your family, or for that person to be ridiculed? It's not you. You're not the one committing the acts of perversion, etc. So why is it that you wish to protect that person? Because I can tell you now, if there was somebody in my family and I knew I'm not protecting them under any circumstances, unfortunately, I will be outing them 100%. Because what rubbish? What's Israel said there? It's always these so-called yes, exactly. He said it's always these so-called stepfathers as well in the Caribbean, especially. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Because there's too many of them. Mm-hmm. Mum is changing her man every minute and introducing him to her daughters and sons sometimes, because it's not just girls.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah.
It's mainly men, but it isn't only the men that do it. But the men are messing around with both the girls and the boys.
Yeah.
But women also, to a lesser degree, are also involved.
Yeah.
And sometimes, in many cases, the mothers are involved because they're complicit. They know something has happened and they brush it under the carpet. They pretend.
Because they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, they don't want to deal with it. Sometimes it's because of economic issues. And it happens the same in Africa. A lot of that, Kenya, I know of. That parents are even literally as good as selling their children to these dirty white men, you know, for 2 weeks at a time or whatever. They come there on their so-called holiday.
Yeah.
And they want a young girl. And they literally buy the child from the family with just, you know, small change, which is big money to them in a sense, for the couple of weeks, and brutalize the child and spoil the future of that child.
Yeah.
You know, and it's an ongoing situation that governments in poorer countries in particular don't address heavily. And the majority of people, and this is if anybody thinks I'm lying, go and check the statistics. The majority of people who are the perpetrators, at least the ones who are being caught in those cases, are British, Canadian, and USA people who are going to these poorer countries and brutalizing the children.
Yeah.
And it happens on a regular basis. And of course, we know there are people in those poor countries who are doing that as well. You know, these so-called uncles and stepfathers and whatever. But what I'm saying is that these people, some of them are going there in the guise of charitable work. We've come to build an orphanage. We've come to bring water, blah, 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 etc., etc. And they are brutalizing people's children. And then just leaving and going back to their country and going back to very high-paid, well-respectable jobs.
Yeah.
As if nothing has happened.
While people are there and it's ruining their lives.
Go on, Taylor.
Yeah, people are there. It's ruining their lives. They're the damage that is caused by these paedophiles and the things that they do to these children. It's not only just where maybe they become a damaged person. Sometimes even the whole makeup of their brain has now been distorted for life. Hence where multiple personality disorder stems from, as they call it. And a lot of the time, when you look into multiple personality disorder and a person who suffers from that disorder, what you find is that they were abused as a child. And majority of the time, there is some form of sexual abuse involved in it. And I watched this documentary just the other day about the first man who was what was he? Yeah, acquitted. Is the word acquitted? He was of all charges.
Acquitted. Yeah,
acquitted of all charges against him, because of course he had pled unfit for trial because of mental insanity, etc. And this was the first case of multiple personality disorder that they had really seen within the court. And what had happened was he had raped, I think, about maybe 3 or more women on the campus, on the university campus. Those women came forward and reported him. And then that's when they found out that he supposedly had the multiple personality disorder. And apparently he didn't know that he had it at this point either.
Wow.
And him, when they looked into, because he's I think he's dead now, but his siblings are still alive. So they were on the interview, and they were talking about their childhood and how, because of the time when they were alive, which was like the 60s, when they were young, they were saying that in America, and because they lived in the South as well, they said it was very conservative, and a woman couldn't really get by easily without having some form of husband or a man to go to work and bring money for the house and etc. So the mother had, I think they did.
Excuse me.
They didn't make it clear, but I think the mother definitely had some psychological issues going on. Yeah, because every partner she picked was some strange man who she had known for 2 minutes. So even their father, she had known him for 2 seconds. He was a drunkard, hardcore drunkard. Yeah, used to drink every single day. And they were talking about how when they were small, they'd be in their bed. Their father would go out drinking. He'd come back, and they could even tell by the way he drove onto the drive what mood he was in. And when he drank and he got drunk, when he drank and he got drunk, he became violent and abusive. Yeah. So beating them all up for no reason. She said to you, the sister said she'd be hiding in her bed sometimes when he's come back, because she doesn't know if he's going to bust into the room and start beating her for no reason and all these sorts of things. And they said when these things were happening, and like when the mother was being beaten and all of this, and because he used to really box around the mum hardcore, flinging her around the whole room and all these sorts of things. And the sister said that when all of these things used to be happening, the brother that had this condition would be there in the corner, rocking and saying, I don't even know, speaking to himself or something. So of course, dissociating from the situation and what's going on. Fast forward now, the mum has divorced the father because of the abuse. And she goes off and she goes living somewhere. She's living with her sister, and that goes well for a period of time. But of course, the mum needs a man, according to her. she can't live without the man. So she goes searching again for a man. Moves back further down south. Now finds another man who seems all nice and everything. And he had a daughter from a previous marriage, so they both adopted each other's children.
Mm.
And everything seemed good and nice and etc. Until suddenly he's an abuser as well.
Mm.
And starts beating them and beating the mum. And he would beat the sister and his daughter and the mum in the house. But the brother and the man, that young boy, he would take them to the shed.
Yeah,
to abuse them.
Story, yeah.
You know who I'm talking about, innit? Yeah. He would take them to the shed to abuse them. And a neighbor who was like a neighborhood friend of the boy said that one day she was riding her bike near the shed or something, and she could hear screaming and crying and all of this. And when she came by, when she finally got to near the shed, she said that the stepfather came out and went back into the house, and then it was the young boy that was left in there.
Mm.
And he admitted later on, of course, that man was raping him.
Mm-hmm.
And
you see,
of course, we know for a fact that this is what caused the issues inside that man. Why he was such a troubled person. Why he had, as they call it, multiple personalities. Yeah, inside his head.
And Israel has made a comment there which makes sense. He said, excuse me. He said, and then many of these victimized children turn homosexual as a result of the abuse or molestation. And that's right. That does happen. And then people are then asking the question, how come?
Yeah.
And first and foremost, we're not getting into, we spoke about that last week.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
We're not getting into the rights or wrongs of homosexuality. That's your business. You make your choice.
But
but sometimes it wasn't a choice. It was what was given to you.
Yeah.
And that was what was presented to you as good and nice, and you got used to it.
Yeah.
And hence they end up becoming what they didn't want to become. And then you see in some of those cases where they have this ongoing battle within themselves.
Yeah.
Because they're fighting against what they actually didn't want to be, or they think that their family doesn't want them to be, or the community doesn't want them to be.
Yeah.
And there's a continuous battle going on, but they've become accustomed to it.
Yeah.
Become used to it.
Because of what they endured.
Because of what they've endured.
Yeah. Or even it can go the opposite way, where because they've endured certain abuse from whichever gender, they then are off that gender completely.
Yeah. So that's that you can have them then, because you see, these are also some of the things, like I said, that are not talked about. When they don't, and this is why they don't want talking therapies for LGBTQIA communities.
Transfer of spirit, Alison said.
Yes, it can be, but this is why they don't want any talking therapy. They don't want just leave them. Don't talk to them. Don't talk to them, because when you talk to them on a deeper level, you're going to find out
the issues.
Some of the people who have become transgender, it's because of exactly what Tamar just said. When I was young, I was, sexualized by uncle so and so, auntie so and so, and I hate women. I hate men. I don't want to continue being a girl.
Yeah.
Because if I wasn't a girl, he wouldn't
he
would have not touched me there. He would have not gone in there. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And it's all these type of things are not always, but many cases which they don't want to discuss.
No.
They want to make it look as if every one of them is just really happy about changing their gender, and they just want to change it. They don't want to talk about any of the issues that come behind it. They don't want to talk about any of the confusion that comes behind it, because there's also sometimes confusion about why they've ended up changing, wanting to switch genders and all these type of things, or be gender fluid and bounce between one and the other.
Yeah.
Yes, we know some of them are just greedy and have bad behavior, but not everybody.
Yeah, not everybody.
And these are all the things. Don't address that. Don't address that. Don't talk about that.
But that's what needs addressing.
You know,
because the thing is, as well, is what you'll find is that, of course, nowadays it's more socially accepted to go to therapy. So this is what these people are doing instead. They're going to therapy. Yeah, and if you ask a lot of people who are not everybody, but of course there is quite a few people within that community who will be going to therapy, may be medicated, yeah, and etc.
To calm them down and so
things,
forth.
yeah, diagnosed with this and that because of whatever's happened to them from when they're young. Because also some of them, as we know, there are some men that can have more of a feminine nature because maybe they are supposed to grow up and have a certain type of job or role or etc.
Yeah, or it could be hormonal.
Yeah,
that they actually literally have a higher level of estrogen than some other men.
Yeah, and
a lower level of testosterone than some other men.
So they're just naturally like that.
That's right.
Yeah,
and those things can be factual. We're not denying that anyway.
No, of course. And we know that of like in certain cultures, as we've already discussed, of course, the way that it's handled can be wrong. So say if there's a conservative father, like let's say a white American family, and they're pro America, pro conservative, and they believe to be Christian, and I'm saying that way on purpose. They believe that they are good conservative Christian people. They then have a child that's maybe, if she's female, she's a bit more masculine, tomboy, or if the child is male, they're a bit more feminine. They then start pressuring that child to be somebody that they're not. Oh, there's something wrong with you. You're not normal, and all those sorts of things. And when a child is a child, when they're 3 years old and they want to, say if they have sisters and they want to use their sister's handbag, leave them to use their sister's handbag.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
They're children.
And it doesn't mean anything. Yeah. But it doesn't suddenly turn him into a girl.
Yeah, it doesn't turn him into a girl.
I mean, that's another topic all by itself anyway, but it doesn't.
No.
Oh, well, he put on his mum's wig, so now he's a girl. I used to wear my mum's wigs all the time. And they'd be doing all sorts of things.
Because
be acting.
When you're a child, that's fun.
Acting the whole show.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be putting on the wig and watching something that I'd seen on TV. I'd put the wig on, put the high heels on, and get my mic.
Yeah.
And be doing stuff. Well, it didn't turn me into a girl or turn me effeminate or any such thing.
Exactly.
So no, shut up.
All of that is rubbish, and that further damages these young people
because they can't just play.
Yeah, they can't just be.
Everything has to mean something.
And then in turn, psychologically, they're always, like Dad said, always challenged. Oh, I can't be my true self because if I'm my true self,
it will be labeled.
Yeah. So even maybe say they want to be a fashion designer. I can't be a fashion designer because my dad will say that's gay and all those sorts of stupid stuff. And that's what can cause these psychological issues further on in life and make people even, I don't want to say rebellious, but you understand where I'm getting at with that. Yeah. They kind of, well, if you don't agree,
they pick up on the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, exactly.
So you've said enough times that I'm bad. You've said enough times that I'm this or that. So now that's what I am.
Yeah.
You said I'm gay, so I'm gay.
Yeah.
We know there are people out there who have that propensity already. And again, the same thing with the paedophilia.
Yeah.
Because they have been abused.
Yeah.
And yes, not everybody has.
No.
But having worked in the environment that I've worked with many, many sex offenders over the years in the past. And a theme that runs very, very constant throughout, not absolutely everybody, but it's very, very common, is that they've been abused.
Yeah.
Sexually.
Yep.
And in turn, they decide to do what happened to them.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form. Now that doesn't make it right. But they do it.
Yeah, it's like a form of revenge almost. I think that's how they feel.
And familiarity.
Yes. Because even though deep down they know it's wrong, there's still a part of them at the same time that is picking up on that familiarity of what's happened to them, and they kind of see it as normal because it happened. Well, if it happened to me, it can't be that strange.
That's right, because I'm still alive. But
yeah, I'm still alive.
But yet they're not maybe considering how messed up they may be.
Yeah.
Within their mind. The worst case I can consider, and I'm not going to give the details per se. There was somebody in a secure unit, and he sat and he was just talking, and we tried to tell him just stop, and he just wouldn't stop talking. And he said, why do you think I'm like this? Why do you think I'm a sex offender and I've been locked up in a secure unit, etc., etc.? And he began to retell the story of a story anyway, of what a coach driver had done to him in absolute graphic detail. How long and everything. And we were like, we don't want to hear anymore. We just don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Well, you can't leave here. You've got nowhere else to go, and I want to talk. And that was also true. So he talked.
Yeah.
But he was in a mess because he didn't even know if he'd ever be released.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't guarantee, even with medication, and the medication per se for such type of people is not that. Even in terms of a mental illness, they're not necessarily classifying it that the medication can help.
Yeah.
It's to shut them down.
Yeah.
To
slow them down and.
That's right.
Yeah.
Shut down the urges and shut down the thoughts. And he was on medication and he still couldn't say at all he won't do it. He just couldn't say it.
Yeah. You see?
And let's say maybe then didn't want to say it. But then we'll say, well, it's not my fault because the things I've gone through and blah, 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 blah. And, I know people have all sorts of, what would I say, reactions to it, feelings and emotions about it. I can remember in the case of prison, when I joined the prison service and we were at training school, we were shown a video of a particular man who was a prolific sex offender.
Yeah.
And he was interviewed and, he relished it. You could see in the interview when he was describing what he had done and describing those young girls, he spoke about it with enjoyment.
Yeah.
And without every single officer or, new officer as we were at the time, wanted to climb through that TV screen and squeeze the life out of that man.
Of course.
And obviously they used that video on purpose as a training tool because the point then was that they're saying, well, fine, we've seen how many of you have this emotion, but you do, of course, know when you go to work, wherever it is that you work, you're going to have large sex offender population.
You have to control yourself.
The prison population now of sex offenders countrywide is coming to 20%.
Yep.
So they're saying like 1 in 5.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're saying, yeah.
HMP Little Hay, where I have worked, is the largest sex offender prison in Europe. 1,220 sex offenders in one prison. HMP Little Hay. I've worked there. So this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not in the system now, praise the Lord. But yeah, it seems like it's on the rise. Now they're saying that maybe one of the reasons why the numbers seem to be on the rise is because the government is actually, more harsh in the penalties, etc., now than what they used to be, and I think that's true.
Yeah.
But I think it's not just a case of the government being harsh. I think people are talking up more than what they used to.
There's more,
there's more discussion.
Yep.
There's more awareness. There's more understanding. But there's still a lot that's been overlooked.
Yeah,
this is the last thing we're going to talk about, because I'm watching the numbers, and I said I would. And I'm not going to drain out my throat continuously.
Any further,
just so people can
We've done just over an hour,
watch when they feel like, which is okay. But if we want a bit more interaction and we're not getting it, we're gone.
Yeah.
So there's one other thing that is very piecemeal in the way it's dealt with, and that's the taxi drivers.
Oh boy.
Go on.
The taxi drivers, man. It's actually very serious, the taxi drivers, because what's been going on for the past few years, and it has been rising over the past few years. If anybody that you watch the news, you follow what's going on in the country, over the past few years, there's been taxi drivers in London and different places in the UK, preying upon these young girls, who go out and then they're going home or whatever, maybe they're drunk. Yeah. They're drunk or they've been out or whatever. These men are preying upon them, getting them in their taxis, and then driving off somewhere, driving down a dark place, whatever, and then molesting them, abusing them. And there was a case recently, I think maybe not that recently, a couple of years ago. Yeah, about a couple of years ago. And there was this one taxi driver who had abused several different girls. And there was actually 2 girls that had come forward and made statements about him, I think within the space of a couple of days of each other. But the police at first hadn't picked up on the fact that it was the same man. Evidence later came out that, of course, that I think it was somebody else. They caught him with another woman or something like that. And then he was then jailed. Now, it's not even just random taxis either. So it's not just like, oh, you ring a taxi company, or oh, it's a black cab. Even Uber people, because I know that people like to use Uber. Even I use Uber sometimes. Even some of the Uber drivers are predators. Yeah. And there's even been there was one time, even me personally, there was one time I got in a taxi. And these are the times where I just have to thank God that I've got protection always. Because I got in the taxi and straight away I could feel some sort of strange pressure or in the environment. And this man in the front of the car, the driver, was speaking to me. He said, oh, he's acting nice. Oh, hello. Yes, how are you? All of that. And I'm replying, but in my head is saying, yeah, exactly. My head is saying, nah, this man is not right. He's not nice. He's evil. That's what my head was saying. Then I just kind of cut the conversation, where you just and just end the conversation there. Then he's said, when they look in their mirror, then he's every minute looking in the mirror like this. So of course I've seen him looking in the mirror. So I'm looking at him and I just went like that and just gave him a look as if to say, what are you doing? Then he's looking. Then he's, oh, off to work. Asking me all these questions. Oh, where do you work? How often do you work there? And then what time do you finish today? Yeah, all these questions. Yeah, what time? Is it a long shift? I said that, and I'm just giving him, the cryptic replies. Yeah, not too long. Oh, what time do you finish? Oh, evening. Just those cryptic answers, because what kind of rubbish? Yeah. And the funniest thing is that same day when I got into work, after he had dropped me off, my friend at work came and said to me, I need to tell you something. Be careful, because there's this Uber driver, and he was asking me all these strange questions, and looking at me in the mirror, and saying what time am I finishing work, and etc. And I said, look at that. I said, I was just in his taxi. I'm telling you, that's the same man.
And you're lucky because you're an adult with a bit more understanding and a bit more what would I say, articulation.
Yeah.
Had it been a child,
yeah,
he would have been having a field day.
Yep.
Which is exactly what it's designed. That behavior is all about.
Yeah, asking all those intuitive questions. Oh, because of course they know where you live already. They know where they're dropping you, and all of that. And if it was nighttime and it was late, then what? How would he have behaved? You know what I mean? Or if I was, let's say I had been out or something, like these other young girls. Let's say I was drunk and I got in the taxi. How would he have behaved?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's dangerous out here.
That's right.
Yeah.
And obviously, as I say, we're talking about what they're doing with the children, but that's why, because then they know that with those young girls, they'll look at themselves, maybe she's 16. That's a good age for me. She's 15. That's a good age for me. Age. And they're also easy because they're not really going to fight me or say anything, and I can manipulate.
Yeah.
And this is the problem.
Because I wonder if that when they see me as well, because my face is young,
they think you're young.
Because even that girl, she's small. She's small and has a young face as well.
That's it, you see.
So that's what it is.
He's assuming. So Israel said,
oh, yes.
I always tell my friends, the female ones mainly, that if they get a taxi or Uber, then sit in the back. You can't kick him so easy sat in the front. Yeah.
Exactly.
This is
you already know. Yeah.
And some of them, that's exactly what they want. They want a kick.
Yeah. Some of them for real. And listen, that man knew, because when he was asking me, then he tried to look again. And like I told you, I just gave him the stone face. Yeah.
But the one issue, and it's a problem. But this is why we must educate our own people, our children and young people and so forth. Because what if you take these things and say, well, look, for instance, in the summer, you'll see it all the time here.
Yeah.
There's a park not far from here. And all the taxi drivers, mostly Muslim ones, park up their taxis and they're staring inside the park at all the girls in there.
Yeah.
Which, of course, not everybody in the park is a child. Obviously, you've got parents in there too, and you've got some people who just go to the park because they want to.
Yeah.
But there's a large amount of girls in there.
Yeah.
And particularly in our area where we're talking about, many of them are Eastern European girls who already, some of them are used to sexual activity from their home country.
Yeah.
Because some of them, the home country, at 14, they're legal to be married.
Yeah.
Well, in the UK, they're not. And those Pakistani taxi drivers know they're not legal, but they're still busy looking at them and beckoning even to some of them, having conversations.
Yeah.
We had been told some time ago that there was even a house where they were taking girls. The house was being manned by Eastern Europeans. Yeah. And they were having sex with them, and these girls were underage. When we've reported this on, you get 107 different questions. Instead of them saying, right, well, we'll just get off there and go and take a look with the police. No, you get 107 different questions. How do you know?
Yeah,
what evidence? Where did you get the evidence from? Who told you? Blah, blah, blah. Instead of them actually taking any same thing. What they've done as an answer to the thing with the park.
Yeah.
They send a van to hand out condoms.
Yeah. What rubbish.
So what are you saying?
Yeah.
You're telling the 15 and 16-year-old girls, some of them who say they're 16 and they're probably not anyway.
No, they're more like 14.
You're telling those girls, get a condom. Then if this Pakistani taxi driver comes to do a thing, at least you've got a condom.
Yeah, at least you're protected.
And because they're just used to it, and they charge them, and they pay them whatever, 10 quid or whatever it is, and off they go.
Yeah.
And this is the whole thing, that it's all those things that either, firstly, people don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And secondly, those who even talk just talk. And they don't, and it's not being addressed.
No.
Or it's acted as if we just sweep that underneath there.
Yeah.
And it will go away. Sweep it underneath there, it still doesn't go away.
No.
You know, and then you'll have big mouths like me who will come and do a live and well, he would, because he's controversial, he's a troublemaker and all of this. But we
likes the post hard.
But we're speaking the truth, you see.
I don't care, and I will never stop posting about these people.
That's right.
And all of that, because it's the fact of that. It's not even just. It's already within our community as people of color and as what they call working class, etc. But it's also in the higher up, in the elites.
That's right.
And they use it to gain power. Yeah. So if we are not open about it, how can we expect for them to stop the behavior if there doesn't seem to be any, like, there's not enough societal upheaval about what's going on? Because even when the whole situation of Save the Children, that hashtag Save the Children that happened, remember, last year, already now, what's going on? Everybody is quiet again. No one's posting anymore. Because they got rid of Trump, didn't they? Yeah. And we know why.
And then tried now to say he's a paedophile.
Yeah.
He wasn't, and isn't, and hasn't been.
No.
Oh, he had his daughter sitting on his lap. Yeah. Every father's had his daughter sitting on his lap. Oh, she kissed him on the lips. Well, so
I don't get why people have an issue with that. It's her father. So what? She's not supposed to show any affection to her. But you know what? This may sound harsh to say, but the reason that people think this behavior is strange is because they have had things happen to them, such as what we are talking about. Paedophile
Otherwise,
abuse.
they wouldn't find anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
And wouldn't consider it from a wrong angle.
From a sexual... Why would it be
simple
sexual?
as that? And irrespective of that discussion, he was draining the dirty swamp.
Yeah, for real.
Right? Plain and simple.
Yeah, for all them people there.
And it had to be done.
And our nasty paedophiles, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and all the rest. Yeah? And their little
Biden is busy. He's become the USA president. He's busy there sniffing
children's heads and all
and hair and necks and all sorts of things.
Yeah, and whispering
in their ears and feeling them up, and he's gotten away with it.
Yeah, and the evidence is literally right.
It's right in front of your face, because there's plenty of videos of it.
Yeah.
Anybody else had done that, they would have been investigating them
straight away. If Trump,
they're not appropriate for that office and blah blah blah. And why? Because he's part of the dirty system, so they're happy for him to continue with his rubbish.
It's all right.
And because they just see him as a loony.
Yeah, exactly.
Sniffing girls' hair and all these things. Read what Israel said.
So Israel said, another big problem is women, mainly in the USA, who are treated as criminals for killing the person who used to rape them. But the rapist would be getting off scot-free if they were alive anyway. And then you have the spiking issue in the UK. Yeah, so two things there. Firstly, of course, the notion of, they've killed the person who has, spoiled their life. Yeah. Well, okay, I'm not going to sit here and condone murder because, I can't. Of course not.
But I understand, and that's all I'm going to say. Because for some of them, this is something that happened in childhood, and they carried it for many years, and then just... But part of this is because if they couldn't or didn't talk about it, it stayed there and become pent up aggression, and then festered into murder. Yeah, and this is like the issue. Now, of course, with the spiking of drinks, mostly with Rohypnol. Yeah. Then now they've gone on to now injecting ladies.
Yeah.
And you know, when you say ladies, some of these are only just over the age of consent who go out because, you know, as much as people are going to want to say, oh no, it's only adults who go out to clubs and pubs. Shut
the
up.
lies.
Stop the rubbish.
Children looking
like adults are plenty.
Yes.
And there's plenty of girls who have false IDs and everything that look very genuine.
Yeah.
And also you have lots of lazy doormen.
Yeah.
Who just look at the girl and look at her and think, oh, she looks all right. She looks nice.
Yeah.
Big pair of boobs and whatever. And he's not even supposed to be looking at that. He's supposed to be checking is she age appropriate, etc. He's busy looking at what size of what she's got and how she looks.
Yeah.
You know, and then lets her in.
So I'll let her in.
Or she gives him a fake ID and he doesn't read it properly.
No, he does. Yeah.
You know? Okay, and she's in. And she's 15.
And this is reality.
And then these predators, they just know. So he's seeing this 15-year-old in the club or pub and thinking, she's young. And that's the one he targets because he knows she's more vulnerable. She's going to probably have the propensity to be drunk more quickly.
Yeah.
And he'll just be able to even chat his way into her panties or get her drunk.
Her off.
And inject her with something or put it in her drink and so on. And these are the things that you're up against. And those are the ones that people also don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
You see?
Real. Yeah. This is the thing because...
And sleepovers.
Oh, yeah, the sleepovers.
That's the last one we're going on and then we're done. Sleepovers.
Yeah. The sleepovers as well. The same thing.
Yeah. No. Ask the rest of them. She's one of them, but ask the rest of the girls.
Yeah.
No.
There was only one person's house I could sleep over, and that was my very close friend. And there was no men there. At the end of the day, there was no men.
Just plain and simple.
Just, you know what I mean? Because the thing is, like, there's even a book, right? A book that I have read because I've read lots of, you know, like fiction-based books. And of course, we know that these fiction-based books are still based off of real life.
Oh, yes.
Yeah? And one of the books that I read was about a young girl, and I'm talking, she must have been about 12 or something. And she had a best friend, and she used to go around to their house all the time. And the best friend had a brother, and the brother was, let's say, 16 or something. You know, about 4 years minimum older than her. 4 or 5 years. And this book actually focuses on the fact that they begin a secret relationship with each other. So the older brother and the young friend begin a little secret relationship when she's about 13, and he must be about 17 at this point. And so she's saying she's going to see her friend. She's staying over at her friend's, but secretly, she's actually going to the brother's room, or seeing the brother or whatever. Yeah, and these are the types of things that are going on a lot of the time when you have these young girls who want to always be sleeping out and never staying home. Every weekend, they're staying at their friends. Why? Why do you want to be at your friends every weekend? Yeah, when there's nothing even going on. I just want to sleep at my friends. I just want to stay at my friends.
Because something fishy.
Yeah, because something fishy is going on.
And many girls have done that and end up coming out from there pregnant.
Yes, this is what I'm saying. And then suddenly, all of a sudden, your daughter is pregnant and you're not understanding why. Yeah, because you're every minute when you're thinking she's at her friend's sleeping over, she's sleeping over somewhere else. Yeah. Or
they arrange. They've gone to that friend's house because they fancy the brother.
Yes. Yeah.
And then they're busy there. I'm going to sleep over at my friend's house, and they're busy having sex with the brother.
Yes. Just like in that book. This is what I'm saying.
Right. And they're kids.
Yeah. Children.
And nobody's watching.
Nobody's watching. The parents are off.
You know,
doing
because
whatever.
they're off doing whatever, or they've just said, they're just up there playing or
doing
whatever they're doing. And these are the type of things that are going on.
Yeah.
And yeah, these are the things that people sometimes don't want to address, even with their daughters. If they're sending them somewhere because they feel like my daughter is too perfect. So, you know, well, it doesn't matter. Human nature is human nature. And also coercion may come into it. And it may even be rape for all you know.
Exactly.
So you have to make sure that you cross every T and dot every I.
Yep.
Not just the ones that are convenient.
Yeah. Because even one lady spoke about how she was abused when she was a child by her brother, who was, say, about 15, 16, and she was like 9 or something, around that age. And she said she remembers it because it was going on for years, she said, and he'd just come into the room and, you know, rape her, and the parents never knew, the parents was never suspecting, and all of this. And she said she remembers when it stopped because she got a new bed and her room was decorated, and she had decided, I think she was about 13 at this point, she had decided that that was the end of it now. So when he tried to come that night again, she booted him in the face or something.
Lovely.
Yeah, and then guess what? He never came there again, ever. Never ever tried again.
But it took her some courage to get to that point to be able to boot him in the face. And there wasn't anybody to advise her.
No. And nobody was recognizing what was going on.
They're being oblivious or, pretending that it's not so.
Oh, no, it can't be that. Because even the mother said that one time she caught him in the corridor coming from the sister's room. And then she said, what were you doing in there? And then he, I don't know, made some excuse or, I was just checking on her or something. And the mum said that at the time, even that she thought was strange, but she never thought more of it. She never looked into it. She said she just dismissed it. And that's the whole point. It shouldn't be just dismissed. You should be saying, no, I'm not. She should have been following him up and saying, I don't understand why you're going into your sister's room at nighttime when everybody's supposed to be sleeping.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what is that? What checking up exactly are you doing? You know what I mean? But of
you're
course,
just in there allowing that spirit in you to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hour and a half. I'm done.
Yeah, man. We'll leave it there.
God bless. See you next time.
Thank you for joining, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Get back up.